Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Hearing Things with Julie and Brad. And we are so pleased to have two very special guests this week. I think we've both, Julie and I, independently have mentioned the book that got me started is the book that Shari and Gael wrote, Here and Beyond. And so we reached out and they graciously agreed to come on and talk a little bit about hearing loss and public speaking. But before we get into that, Shari, Gael, would you like to give yourselves a quick introduction? So let's start with Shari.
Absolutely, and thanks so much for having us. So, I am Shari Eberts, a hearing health advocate, a writer and speaker about hearing loss issues, the co-author of Here and Beyond, as you mentioned, as well as one of the producers of We Hear You, which is a documentary about the lived hearing loss experience, and I have a blog at livingwithhearingloss.com.
Great. Gail?
And I, yeah, and I am Gail Hannan. And what she said, with a few changes, I'm a hearing health advocate, public speaker, TEDx speaker, and writer. I write for hearinghealthmatters.org and other organizations, other publications, and the author of two books. The first is The Way I Hear It, and that I published 10 years ago. And then also with my gal pal, Shari Eberts, we wrote Here with Hearing Loss just a few years ago. So we are delighted to be here.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much for having us. So one of the things we always like to start with, to kind of set the tone for the conversation, we're very invested in sharing and showing that there's more than one way to be deaf or hard of hearing. So we always like to start with sharing our preferred terms for our disability and asking our guests to do the same. So I own and use the very controversial hearing impaired. It's what I've been using since I was 4 years old, and I own that. I own the power of those words, and that's what I'm comfortable with. So, Brad, what about you?
I use hard of hearing. It's something that I'm comfortable with, and so that's what I use. So, Gail, what do you use?
I use all of the above, and actually, I don't use hearing impaired, but I have long since dropped, as has Shari, opposition to any label being not suitable. What's most important is that we do self-identify as having a hearing loss in some way, and that you let people know what you need. I grew up calling myself hard of hearing, and but I never liked the term much because it always sounded hard of hearing, right? But people knew what you meant. And then for a long time now, I say I have hearing loss. I also say that I'm deaf because I essentially am deaf, audiologically deaf.
Sure.
So I use the terms almost interchangeably, but I always follow up with what I need.
Perfect.
Shari?
And I alternate. So I usually say I have hearing loss, but sometimes I say I'm a little bit deaf because I feel like sometimes that gets a little bit more attention from people because they're like, oh, deaf, hearing loss, they're like, oh, okay, well, turn up your hearing aids or whatever. And then sometimes I say, oh, I wear hearing aids, which will help me hear a little bit better, but I still might need some extra help. So I kind of mix it up, really depending on the situation and how hard of a time I'm having hearing that person.
Oh, interesting.
For me, it really varies by voice as well.
That's great.
And if I could just add another comment on that, I remember presenting to a college, university students, and the young people, well, young relative to me, people, they really didn't use the labels that we've been talking about, except what Shari mentioned. They used hearing aids. Can you speak up? I use hearing aids. So, so I thought that was interesting and that's sort of a new take. I'm not sure if that's a sort of a universal thing now, but yeah.
Great. Oh, that's cool. So, speaking of speaking, you both do a lot of public speaking. So, what drew you to public speaking? Let's start with Shari this time.
Yeah, well, so my first career was really in finance. I was an equity analyst. And so part of that was going out and meeting with groups of people to talk about different stocks. I covered retail stocks. So I felt like it was just something that I always did, whether it was a one-on-one situation or a small group lunch, a dinner, or a larger presentation. So it was just something that I was used to in terms of communicating any writing that I did and any thoughts that I had. So it just seemed like a natural transition to take that into hearing loss because it was something that was pretty comfortable for me.
Sure.
Well, I'm a ham at heart. Give me a microphone, give me a stage. My background is in theater, community theater, semi-professional theater. Growing up, that's what I did. And I did theater for years, for a long time. And so being on stage was not, or on a podium or speaking was always something that I like to do. And then when I became involved with hearing loss, almost from the start, because it was 1995, I thought, there's got to be a better way to talk about this stuff because I'd gone to a conference and the presentations were so depressing. So this is a cochlea, and if you have hearing loss, you're probably going to be depressed and isolated, and it's I went, this is the best we can do. So that's what drew me to creating new content and speaking about it. And so it's been what drew me to it, I love to do it, and there's a need for it. So.
Absolutely, for sure.
So speaking of that, what do you enjoy the most about your public speaking? Is there one part of it that really gets you jazzed up? Is there something you look forward to each time you're ready to go and present? Like, what's that one kind of secret sauce for you when it comes to your public speaking career?
I'm going to go first here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Shari and I, just a little background, Shari and I were acquaintances, friends before we part of a group of our little tribe of hearing loss women. And but I knew that I didn't know her that well. So but I reached out to her to create a book because she was the right person. But what developed was an incredible friendship, but we have different approaches to things. And I'm going to give you an example. When we do public speaking at big conferences, they have these great exhibition halls, trade shows, whatever. And we love to walk them because, we're looking to make connections and to offer our services and la-di-da. But Shari does things very methodically. We start near the front door and we go this way and then down and like this from start to finish. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, look, a pigeon. Or, I'm like, hey. And I'll go, oh, Shari, there is, but we got to go speak to, I should go, all right. Yes, we can. And then we're coming right back to this spot and we'll continue doing that. So, and we have different approaches to public speaking as well, individually. And I would say we're both very good at it, but different approaches. When we like right now, we're in the midst of creating our presentation for the Hearing Loss Association of America convention. But back to your question, what I like to go off the cuff a little more. I think probably my background in theater and to and I'm comfortable with that. And Shari's very comfortable, don't get me wrong, but she has a different approach. Well, she's now going to tell you about it.
Nice segue, nice lead.
Okay. We've done this before. No. No, I mean, what really attracts me about public speaking is really the connection with the audience and sort of that emotional sharing the emotional stories, sharing really what I experience and seeing and watching others react to that and feeling that resonance. And I love to hear from them, how what we're talking about really impacts them as well. Because I think the greatest thing about public speaking is just building those relationships and building those connections and feeling just less alone in our hearing loss because we can hear something and say, that happened to me as well. But look, she's up here doing okay, and I can do okay too. So I love that as well. But in terms of what Gail was talking about, I do like to make sure that things are very organized. And I like to make sure that we get through all the information. So we need to know how much time we're spending on each slide. But it's really a great balance because she forces me to be a little more, in the moment, and I force her to be a little bit more planned out. And I think it's a great balance, right, Gail?
Yeah. Do you have a rebuttal, Gail?
So I got the question wrong. I thought I interrupted myself and thought, what are the difference in our style? The question was, what attracts me to public speaking? I am so sorry.
No, it's a great answer.
A lot of what Shari said, and it's again a passion for the topic, a passion to share and connect, but also because of the need. Like I mentioned a few minutes ago, there's a need to get this information across about hearing loss because even today, 20, 30 years on after hearing loss first came out of the closet, it is a person by person thing. Someone is not going to absorb information about hearing loss unless they need it.
Yep.
Right.
So,
Very true.
and so just seeing an ad in, you're reading a magazine about whatever, a general magazine, and or a newspaper, and there's an ad for a hearing aid, you're not even gonna notice that until you need it, and then you are subject to so much misinformation, and and how we live our lives. And that's what Shari and I are both at this point in our life very dedicated, getting the information that really is going to help people. And neither of us have lost that passion. And that's so the attraction beyond the joy of doing it, of course, is the need for it.
That's excellent. Yeah. So I think I've mentioned that you've both inspired us, and this next question kind of wants to help other people. So for other people that wants to start talking about hearing loss and advocating, what accommodations or modifications or technology are needed to ensure a successful presentation experience?
Well, that's a hard question because I think that everyone is a little bit different. And so it's really going through that process of learning about your own hearing loss and experimenting with various types of things, whether it's having captions or whether it's having a certain place in the setup for that public speaking. So I'm not sure I have a perfect answer to that question. For me, it's really about the captions because that's most helpful for me for filling in whatever blanks that I miss. I'm pretty lucky. My hearing aids get me, depending on the voice and depending on if there are accents or unusual noises or what have you. But in a normal situation, I'll get most of the way there. And then it's really try to have those captions as sort of my like belt and suspenders approach, to make sure that I have whatever backup I need. And I'm also not shy, especially if we're talking about hearing loss. Everyone knows we have hearing loss, or by the end of the first 5 minutes, hopefully they've figured that out, given what we're talking about. And so if there's a situation that arises, it's almost a great learning moment, in the presentation. I remember I went and I spoke at this state conference one time, and I had little clips from the documentary that I wanted to show. And those, of course, are captioned because the documentary is captioned, but usually there's also sound as well. And it was an audiologist audience. So many of them, if not all of them, could hear, typically. And we pressed the button to press the video, but they hadn't set it up for sound.
Oh, no.
So it was silent. And we were watching the video and we tried a couple of different times, but I thought it was fabulous because I was like, this is really an opportunity to show you First of all, how disruptive it can be if accommodations or different things aren't working. And second of all, how important the captions are and how they can still get you to experience the content, understand the emotions of the content, all of it. And I just thought it was such a great learning moment for, just the importance of those accommodations. And then when things don't go well, having that, belt and suspenders approach.
I
So.
love it.
That's great.
I think going back to the question of what sorts of about talking about giving a presentation, as Shari was saying there towards the end, we think very carefully about what we need. Depends on who the audience is. Most of the time, when we're presenting, the technology is in place somewhat. And but we always check our mics. And this goes back to when I did community theater. You are responsible for your own personal prop. So I would always get to the theater early to make sure that everything I needed in my role was there. So the same thing is I always get there. We get there early. In fact, the day before, if we arrive, we always want to see the room. We arrive. One of the first things we always do, hey Shari, is that let's go check out the room.
Yep.
And we sense the size of it, the setup. And on the day of, we're always there early to make sure that the mics are working, depending what type of mics that we wear. In preparation, one of the best things, further to Shari talking about captioning, is and PowerPoint has one of the best built-in captioning tools, one of the best speech to text that we've ever seen. And so we're big fans of AI speech to text. CART is really nice. Not in most presentations. It just price, you just can't, it's expensive. And so we think that AI is getting really great. So, but just being really, really prepared. But things will go wrong. Be prepared when things go wrong. And that happened. If I could just share this one story. I remember presenting a million years ago. I was presenting to a group in Ontario, in Canada, where I live. And I got the clip-on mic is attached to a battery pack. And I never wear belts, and I often don't have pants with pockets. And this time, the battery clip had no clip. The battery pad had no clip. So I had no choice but to slip it down my pants. And it was held quite tightly by my pants. But as I moved around, it started to go south. And I could feel it working its way slowly down my back. And luckily, the presentation ended before it fell to the floor through my underwear. So this was, I always make sure that there is a clip on it. And this is just a graphic example of how checking out your tech is very important.
That's hilarious. And you pivoted like a pro, huh?
Just to ask a follow-up question to when you're presenting, I know you had mentioned interacting with the audience earlier. How do you do that? If you're in a larger space and people have questions, are they coming up to your mic? Do you have a Roger mic? Do you have live captions? How are you hearing and comprehending when questions are being asked? I ask because I know as a teacher in my own classroom sometimes, I'm running around with that Roger mic to the kids. I can't imagine being in an open space like that.
Yeah, I think it depends again, sort of on the situation. If you have the PowerPoint captions, we get to see them as well, on that computer. That's even people in the audience. Sometimes the mic is good enough on that computer to pick some of that up. So you can, turn and look at the captions or look at the captions that are on your computer. I also am not afraid, depending on, the layout, to just move closer, as somebody is asking me the question, like I just keep walking closer and closer. I'm like standing, right up in their face, if I cannot hear what they're saying. And of course, just letting everybody know that I might have trouble hearing, what the questions are. And so hopefully people take that into account And if they don't, we can ask them, to repeat parts of it. Or I also like to try and repeat what I think I heard. So you're asking me blah, blah, blah. And that way, you make sure you have it right before you move on. So those are some of the tips.
Great stuff.
Yeah, and for me, much the same. So I really will walk right into the audience and up to the person so that I can read the lips. And again, everything that we do is a teachable moment. We just won't announce it as a teachable moment, but we'll go in and say, I hope you don't mind, but I need to be close to you depending on the setup of the presentation and if there isn't any mic in the audience. So, but we do everything that we need to do to make sure communication between the two people or us and the audience is working.
Great stuff. So what is one challenge presenting with hearing loss gives you, I guess, that people may not be aware of or may not think of?
Well, I have one for that because I remember one of the first presentations, Gail, that you and I did at AAA. Usually at the beginning, we will say, okay, can everyone hear us okay? But because it's hard to know how loud we are speaking
That's a good point.
and how loud the microphone is amped up. So what do we sound like to the audience? That's something that's really hard to determine. And I remember there was one time, I don't know what was happening, something with the slides. And so we didn't ask that at the very beginning. And later in the presentation, someone finally gave us that feedback that the microphones were not working as well or what have you. And so, lesson learned, right? Like don't get distracted by some other, calamity that's happening and forget to ask that. But I think that's really challenging. And I think it's also a really good just best practice for any speaker, whether you have hearing loss or you don't have hearing loss, is to just make sure that everybody's with you. Can you hear me in the back? Can you hear me over here? And that way it just, you don't have to find out about it, 5 minutes into the presentation and say, well, do we need to go back and cover, the beginning again? So that can be hard.
It was, I've been presenting at HLAA for 20 years. And why are you laughing?
That's a lot
It's a
of
long time.
conventions.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've been around a while,
She's being a little sensitive about that, guys. Okay.
No, in 2002, I was the keynote speaker, and there's hardly been one that I've missed. But Contacta, which is is a they are
Hearing loop company.
Yeah, so they do looping and technology. So for anyone watching who doesn't know what looping is, it creates a magnetic field, and when your telecoils are activated and you're inside that loop, it comes straight into your ears like magic. So presenting on stage is like musicians. Musicians have to wear special feedback things so they can hear themselves. And often I would, up until this point, I'd be on stage speaking and you wouldn't hear yourself quite as well because the sound's going out because the audience area was looped, but not the stage. And on this particular time, Richard McKinley, who was the founder and owner of Contact, he said, hang on, we can do this. He looped the stage and I put on my telecoil and I could hear my own voice such as I can now. And it really made it different because the better you hear yourself, the better you articulate. And when you have hearing loss, I mean, it's true for everyone, but it only becomes more noticeable. I remember I was doing a play once, and that on the day of a performance, one day I got new hearing aids, and they were CICs, and and that night, my friend and fellow actor said, "Boy, you're speaking better," which made me think, how did I speak before with it? But I could hear the sibilant sounds better. So in this case, I was, as a presenter, was able to hear myself much better. And this is usually more applicable for larger rooms.
That's That's great. That's
That's
a good
great. I
point.
hadn't thought about that angle
No.
before. No, that hadn't occurred to me. Huh. All right. So if you had to pick one thing, I know this is a challenge, but what is the thing that you wish people knew about hearing loss? So what would be at the top of your list as the thing that you wish people knew about hearing loss?
It's life-changing,
That's true.
and you can change your life with it.
Oh, I love that.
Write that down, Shari. Write that down. That's good. Yeah.
We are recording, so it will be.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Phew. Okay.
And
guess-
that's what this is the one thing. It is life-changing, and often at first not in a good way.
Yeah.
And that's what we're all about, is that it doesn't have to stay that way, that there is a way to do it and to live more skillfully, ultimate, which leads you to living more successfully and satisfactorily. And so that is the one thing that I want them to know. They are not the total sum of their hearing loss or their hearing aid. There's so much more to it.
That's great. Thank you. How about you, Shari? What do you think?
I would say for a person with hearing loss, the thing I would really want them to know is that they are not alone. Because I feel like even if you have a family history of hearing loss, it's happening to you and it's isolating. And it just, at least for me, it just made me feel very much alone without any kind of network or anyone that would understand. And I think once I realized that that wasn't true, that there were so many other people that also were dealing with these challenges and I could learn from them, it just changed everything for me. So I would definitely want people to know that they are not alone in this and that there are so many resources, books, videos, all different types of ways to connect with other people with hearing loss. And then if I'm allowed to have one for people who don't have hearing
Yes,
loss,
absolutely.
I would say that one thing I really want them to understand is just how hard we are trying
Yes.
to understand them. And not necessarily just hear them, but to communicate with them. And that, I think sometimes people get frustrated, we're not paying attention, or they think we need to turn our hearing aids up, or, whatever they think. I think it would just be very helpful for them to understand how hard we are working at it and that we need them to work hard at it as well.
That's great.
Well, since she got to do two,
Go for
I'd
it.
like
You
to
can
add
do
another one.
two. Wow.
And
Wow.
no, but it further to your very good point, Shari, is that what's important for people to know is that our hearing loss impacts the people we love as well. And that they aren't there just to be frustrated and angry with us, or it impacts them too. So we need to understand where they're coming from. Both Shari and I are married to hearing men. And I call mine hearing husband, and she calls her husband Ken. Because
Right.
and I say, and it's true, is that the hearing husband and I have been together for 35, 40 years, and there isn't a day go by that there isn't some little hearing-related incident. And sometimes I find out that he didn't understand some aspect, and I think, seriously, you're married to me and you don't understand hearing loss? But it's not. They don't have it. And they're coming at it from a different point of view. Communication is a two-way street, and there's challenges on both sides. So when you have a hearing loss, your family and your friends and your loved ones also are impacted by hearing loss.
So
Right.
true.
Yeah. I think we talk about the difference between sympathy and empathy, right? So the people in our lives that are affected can have sympathy, but without the hearing loss, they can't have the empathy. So,
Right.
yeah.
No, that's so true.
Yeah. So, Gail, you mentioned something a little earlier about we're being more than our hearing loss, right? It's not just one part of who we are. And to that end, we always like to end our shows to prove that we're more than just our hearing loss. So as a teacher and a librarian, we always like to have book recommendations. So, Shari, do you have a book recommendation for us?
I do. It's called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. And it's by Gabrielle or Gabrielle, Zevin or Zevin. So I am completely massacring the pronunciation. I don't know if you guys can do it better than I can. But it's a fabulous book about friendships and missed opportunities and passion and even a little bit of disability and how you can overcome that. And it's about video games. It's about these group of people that I know, right? It sounds weird creating video games. I'm not a big gamer myself, but I have a lot more appreciation for all the beauty and planning and literary references that go into it now, having read that book. So it was a fascinating one and great for a book club if anybody has a book club, because there's so many things to discuss in it. So that was a really fun one.
Thank you so much. Gail, what do you got?
Well, I didn't understand the question. So I thought you were going to ask about
You can
our
certainly.
book.
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm embarrassed. I'm sorry. So you want a book that I've read that's not hearing loss related?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I would actually love for you to talk about your books
Yeah.
as well. It'd be very important for people that haven't read your books yet. Both what you've co-authored and have written independently, I think would be great for our audience to hear.
I agree. Want to talk about
Pardon?
your first book there, Gail? There we go. There it
There it
is.
So this is a memoir, and I wanted to write a book when I was since I was young. I just had no idea it was going to be on hearing loss.
Yeah.
And I am very proud to say that this has impacted the lives of many people who read it. And it's not easy for me to say that because it's very braggy, but it has, and I'm very, very proud of it. So it's got humor.
Yeah.
It doesn't have any sex or video games in it. Maybe I refer to it, but anyway. So this is my first book, and then this is our second book, of which we are very, very proud. Here and Beyond lives skillfully with hearing loss. And again, just going back to what I was saying earlier, I reached out to Shari. There were so many memoirs coming out that it was time to get back to strategies. And we wanted to write an accessible, personal, warm, but very serious, down to business, folks. This is what you've got to do to live better with your hearing loss. So also I loved the book Hamnet. That was my favorite book I read this year by Maggie O'Farrell. Yeah, I thought it was a stunning book, far better than the movie, but it was a brilliant book. It moved me. The writing was so. I'm a fast reader, so I know sometimes I miss some words, but with this book, I read every single word and treasured it.
It's a book to be savored, right? So like I would read it not like before bed because I knew I just would get so into it and I wanted to just immerse myself in every word. It's one of the best books I've ever read.
Oh, interesting.
It's really, really good. It's beautifully crafted.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great. Cool.
Absolutely.
Is that your choice? You going to choose Hamnet again?
I know I would if I could. And tomorrow I have on my list, and I
do too,
keep meaning to get to it. So I'm going with Furiously Happy.
Yes.
By Jenny Lawson. She's a humorist. She's a writer. She's someone who's very transparent about her struggles with mental illness, and her writing is absolutely hysterical.
She's so funny.
She also has ADHD, as do I. I am the one that's like, oh, squirrel, wait, what are we doing now, Bear? So I totally relate to that aspect of her personality, and I just crack up laughing. And listening to the two of you talk about your dynamic made us laugh
Very
even harder
similar.
because it's like, this sounds really familiar.
But you need it, right? We complement each other, like you guys complement each other, and it makes it better, right? It makes the impact that much greater because people can see themselves in one, but not the other.
Right.
But like together, I think we work
great.
pretty well.
So I highly recommend all of her work. It's really quite well done in tackling some difficult topics in a way that's accessible and safe and fun and funny, while not deviating from the seriousness of her mental health struggles. It's quite
Serious
good.
topic, heavy topic.
I think I just read one of her books. Well, I mean,
She's got a bunch. Her newest one is How to Be Okay When Everything Is Not Okay. So,
okay, it's on my reading list. I haven't read it yet.
she's fantastic. She's been very open about, talking about topics that people don't want to talk about. I mean, mental illness, hearing loss, people just don't talk about these things. And so it's great to be able to get those conversations going.
What do
So
you got?
my book is Contact by Carl Sagan. And so I'm a huge science fiction fan. And so years ago, I read Contact, and Carl Sagan is a scientist. And so it was really interesting to read a science fiction book by a scientist. Because, yeah, I mean, I love Star Wars and Star Trek and all that stuff, but the scientific accuracy, not so much. So it was interesting to read a book about what first contact would be like from the gaze of an astrophysicist. And so it was good. It was an easier read than I expected coming from a scientist. And it also focused on not only the scientific aspects, but also the religious aspects, right? So like there's a religious component to like, are we alone out there? And there's religions out there that have problems with that topic. So it was a good book. So before we wrap up, is there anything that we didn't cover that either one of you would like to share with the audience? I mean, it's not a trick question. The answer can be no.
I don't think so. I think that with the focus on speaking, that we encourage anyone watching who lives in a community in anywhere in the world, U.S., Canada, Europe, Australasia. People need to hear about hearing loss, and these days we're doing a lot of, Shari and I both do a lot of virtual presentation, but nothing beats face-to-face presentations. And I've done a few of those lately in my home province of British Columbia, and see the impact that makes. And so there's people, if you have hearing loss and you think that you would like to speak about hearing loss in your community, do that. Please, and you can reach out to Shari and me, or you could join a local HLAA chapter, or just find out how to do that. Even if you've never spoken before, just by getting up maybe in your place of worship or at school, and just by sharing your story, you will impact someone.
Absolutely.
And we hear this all the time. I heard you speak here, there, wherever, and it made a difference in my life. And so we really encourage people. You don't have to be an accomplished speaker like we all are, because you have to start somewhere. And maybe you are already a speaker and you talk about other things, but please, if you have the expertise, the lived experience of hearing loss, please share it with others.
Excellent points. Thank you so much.
Perfect. And I would just encourage others to reach out to us as well, going back to sort of that community aspect, and just being able to see yourself and know that you're not alone. And, Gail and I know you, Julie and Brad as well, are always interested in interacting with other people with hearing loss. So just to sort of reiterate that, feel free to reach out, and we would love to hear from you.
This is great. If you just let us know, we'll link it below when we post the video, but where can people find your work? If they're looking to learn more about you, or learn speaking engagements, or content that you're putting out, where would be the best place for our viewers to find you?
So for me, it would definitely be livingwithhearingloss.com. So that's my website. It has the blog. It has information about me. And we also have a website, hereandbeyond.com, which has more information about the book.
Yeah, our book is available. Our book together is available anywhere books are sold. And I have a website, gailhannan.com, but don't go to that because I haven't updated it in a long time. And my first book is available anywhere online. So, yeah.
That's great. So thank you both so much for taking the time to come on and be with us today. It is an absolute honor and privilege for us. You have no idea, I don't think you realize how much you've inspired us, both as people with hearing loss and help us inform, and the work that we're doing together. Like, we just look to the two of you as role models, and I can't say enough about it.
It's true.
I'm fangirling out on you right now. That's okay. But just know what an impact you've had on us.
So thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks
thank
for
you for
having
having
us.
us. And sorry, Shari, and you guys too, with the new stuff you're doing. That's great. So keep it up, and one person at a time will help people live better with their hearing loss.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's everything. And so thank you again so much, and have a good rest of your day.
And we'll
Thank
be
you.
in touch.